Part 5 The Red God's Power. In Davos 1, A Clash of Kings, Solodor's son foreshadows Stannis' situation in dance. Stannis is blinded by the fire, dreaming about his throne and victory against the Great Other. He sent Davos to get him allies and only listened to the Queen's men, who keep telling him what he wants to hear. He also listened to Jon, but Melisandre saw Jon in her flames, so Stannis might think that Jon will join him in time. Stannis is consumed by what the fire tells him, from forcing the wildlings to burn weirwood to staying in a tower in the middle of a storm, staring at the fire while his people get destroyed by the cold. When the fire tells him something, Stannis does it without a question. His great calling is to fight the others, but he left the wall and went south to win his throne. He knows that the Great Other can raise the dead, but he only allowed the wildling to pass if they kneel to him, take a new god, and burn the weirwood. He led some wildlings to go back north to tell everyone that he burned their gods. If the Northerners are religious, then the Free Folks are 10 times worse. South of the wall, the trees are just trees. They don't have a lot of power. But beyond the wall, even Jon, a worshipper of the old gods, gets scared and uncomfortable around the trees. Jon thinks that he can feel its power, and the wildlings never stop giving human sacrifices to their trees, when the Northerners are just wanting to go back to it. Stannis' actions guaranteed an army for the others, either the Free Folks, or if they attack the wall and won, then the Night's Watch, Queen's Men, King's Men, and whoever else close by. Stannis gets everyone in this situation because the fire told him the future, which is sad because the fire doesn't tell the future, or even the truth most of the time. Sir Axel Florent is a devout worshipper of R'hllor. He imprisoned his own brother and let Melisandre burn him alive. Sir Axel claims that, just like Melisandre, he can see the future in the fire. He told Davos that he saw Stannis on the throne, with women dancing around him. We know he's not lying, because he has no reason to lie. Davos even wonders, why would Sir Axel even bother talking to him? None of the Queen's men do. And it's a bad lie. Everyone knows that Stannis is awkward around women, even his wife. If Sir Axel would lie, he would make a more believable vision. Also, him seeing things in the fire would explain why would he stay with the Stannis even if his cause is doomed, and why would he be okay with his brother burnt. His vision is not real, but it is what Sir Axel wanted to see. Stannis doesn't like dancing women, but Sir Axel does, so the Red God showed him what he wanted. It's not the only time the fire showed people what they wanted. Stannis left Dragonstone planning to kill Renly. Then Melisandre sees in the fire that Renly will kill Stannis. He tells Davos that there are more than one future, and the fire shows them all. Stannis looked into the fire, wanting to justify kinslaying, and that is exactly what he got. In Davos 2, A Clash of Kings, Melisandre explains that they are protected by the Red God because the light is blinding the guards and making the shadows, which is both right and wrong. They are hiding in the shadows, and the shadows only exist because of the light, but it is the place where the light can't reach. If R'hllor's power comes from the light, then he has no power in the shadows and can't see what's in it. This is important because in dance, Melisandre thinks that the wall makes her power stronger. However, she doesn't know that it is where she is the weakest. She doesn't know about the tunnels under the wall, most down underground, and the tunnels that might connect between north and south of the wall. These tunnels are underground, where there is no light. Keeping up with the theme of R'hllor and the Great Other, if being on top of the wall makes her power stronger, then being under the wall will make her power weaker. Winter is here, and in winter, using these tunnels are the difference between life and death. Melisandre is so blinded by her power, she can't see her weaknesses. Also, there is something wrong with Melisandre's visions. In a clash, Melisandre tells Stannis to attack Renly instead of King's Landing. At first, he was promised his brother's army, and then it was most of his brother's army. But what he really got was some part of the army. The Lannisters got the better part of Renly's army. Melisandre saw in the fire that Renly would destroy Stannis' army in King's Landing. In the Battle of Blackwater, Garland Tyrell wears Renly's armor and destroys Stannis' army. I think that only happened because Stannis killed Renly. Stannis did not attack King's Landing because Melisandre told him the future. But if he listened to Lord Velaryon and Salladhor's son and went to King's Landing instead, then he most likely would have won. Taking too much time gave the Lannisters time to finish their chain, trained the city guards to work with wildfire, and gave Tywin time to go back to King's Landing. In Dance, she wanted to see Arya Stark, and she saw Alex Skarsgård. She wanted to see Stannis when he was in a snowstorm, and she saw Jon Snow. Melisandre doesn't think about Jon's hand being burnt, and will he sit and let her burn people alive, after knowing how it feels? Stannis is stuck in a snowstorm, and Melisandre is seeing a storm waiting to happen. Part 6. Dragonstone being conquered by the Targaryens. The prologue of A Clash of Kings starts by describing the comet like a wound above Dragonstone in the colors of fire and blood, the Targaryen Wars. Stan's story starts by describing an omen that represents the Targaryens above him, yet he can't see it. All the while, people are comparing him to Aegon the Conqueror. Stan's story in A Clash is a foil for Aegon's story in Dance. They both have the Targaryen blood, except one of them is a dragon. Black or red makes no matter, and the other one is not. Stannis is an old entitled grim man. The lords and small folks alike don't like him. No one cares about his claim. He loses every battle he gets in, and have no one who can challenge him, or knows anything about war around him. Stannis took Dragonstone from the Targaryens and made his claim to the throne from it. Dragonstone's fall was the end of Robert's rebellion with a Baratheon victory. Aegon is a bold, charismatic young man who inspires love and loyalty in his men. He wins every battle he gets in, and everybody cares about his claim. Lords and small folks alike. They loved Rhaegar, so they love his son. He is surrounded by the best people in leading armies, and his council does challenge him if they needed to. Aegon starts his conquest by taking Storm's End from the Baratheon and making his claim from it. Selyse compares Stannis to Aegon the Conqueror. However, she immediately points out the differences between them by calling Dragonstone a desolate rock. Aegon didn't start his campaign thinking that the Dragonstone is a desolate rock. None of the Targaryens did. They had dragons, before and after the conquest. They could have taken any castle or lands they wanted, yet the heir to the Iron Throne is the Prince of Dragonstone. Aegon started his campaign thinking he had a cool castle and dragons. Aegon didn't look down on his people, but Stannis did. If we thematically connect Stannis to anyone in the story, it won't be Aegon and the Targaryens, but Theon and the Ironborn. They both start the story looking down on their lands, attacking anyone who follows a different god, crown themselves with stupid immediate plans and no long-term ones. A lot of people in their stories are waiting for the gods to come and save them, and they just assume if they win a battle or two, then people will just have to accept them as kings. Aegon is not the only Targaryen that Stannis opposite to, but also Dany. In A Clash of Kings, we get told that Stannis stole the ships of anyone who will get inside of Dragonstone, without mentioning what happened to the people inside of the ships. There are three options for what happened to them. First, Stannis kidnapped them and forced them to fight for him, which means Stannis stole their property and enslaved them. 2. They are still stuck at Dragonstone, which means there are a lot of people inside of Dragonstone wanting to join the side of anyone who will attack. 3. Stannis executed them immediately. Stannis enslaving people will put Dragonstone as Dany's first target in Westeros for the first option. If the second one is correct, then it is impossible to protect Dragonstone from any attack. And if the third one is correct, then the moment war will end, rumors will start coming out and people will want revenge. Even though the most likely thing to happen to them are part of all three. He forced some of them to fight in Blackwater, and they died there. He forced some of them to protect Dragonstone, because he had no men. And he killed anyone who won't accept his command. After all, Davos was thrown into the dungeons, and there were no random sailors in there. Part 7. Renly was a better king than Stannis. Maester Crescent thinks that Renly is a boy playing king. He doesn't know what he's doing, and wonders if Renly would care about what him being a king is doing to Stannis. But Crescent is a biased character. He loves Stannis like a son, and did not see Renly for more than 10 years. So, let's really look at what Renly was thinking, and why would he crown himself. When we see Renly in a Game of Thrones, he didn't want to be the king. He wanted to wed Marjorie to Robert. And when Robert died, he wanted to crown Joffrey, as long as they take him away from Cersei. Even Robert, as blind as he was, didn't want Joffrey to be king when Cersei whispers in his ear. Renly sat on the small council with Stannis for long enough to know Stannis will never be king. Stannis is still holding grudges about the siege of Storm's End, so the rich lords will never take the risk of Stannis taking revenge on them as a king. Stannis hates the Starks because Robert loved Ned more than he did Stannis. The Starks might tolerate him for a while, but eventually they will turn on him just like they did the Targaryens. Stannis wanted to take Robb Arryn from his mother, so Lysa will never take him as a king and risk losing her son. The Greyjoys didn't want Robert from the start. They will find any weakness to the throne to rebel. The Lannisters will never accept anyone stealing Joffrey's throne, and Stannis both don't have the power to fight them and too prideful to work with the other lords as equals. Finally, Stannis sees the throne as his right, so he won't honor whatever is the thing that Jon Arryn promised Dorne to stop them from starting a war after the murder of Elia and her children. Everyone knows that Stannis cut off Davos's fingers, even though Davos saved his life. No one will turn to his side in fear of what he will do to them for what he considers as their crimes. He also knows that Stannis wanted to make prostitution illegal in King's Landing, and he did make it illegal in Dragonstone. Yet he done nothing to fix the economic damage from this decision. In fact, we never hear about that, just like we never hear about food in Dragonstone. Stannis will destroy the Seven Kingdoms economy and starve everyone if he had the full power of a king. Stannis led men on his own in two rebellions, the Siege of Storm's End and the War of the Five Kings. In both rebellions, cannibalism was a large part of the story. In Dance, Stannis and his commanders were taking a large portion of food and letting the soldiers to starve. Part 8. Stannis Baratheon, the real Mad King. Stannis helped Robert in the rebellion and won. This made the law, just like a man inherit before a woman. If a king would burn lords alive because of his paranoia, he should be removed from the throne. Stannis burnt his hand alive because he believed that the man was a traitor, and his love for his new god. Stannis burned the seven because they didn't help him, and he believed Melisandre when she told him she can see things in the fire. He sent his men to imprison Septons and forced them to write messages that declared to all the lords of the seven kingdoms that he changed gods. He forced his men to change their gods and killed or imprisoned anyone who will defend the seven. After Stannis took Edric's stone to Dragonstone, people started to talk about the power of King's blood, and Melisandre wanted to give him to the fire. Sure, Davos sent him away, but why would anyone believe that Stannis didn't burn him? All what people see is there was a talk about burning Robert's son, and one day the boy disappeared. Davos, a low-life smuggler, became the king's hand, the man who, according to Stannis and Melisandre, stole their human sacrifice. Stannis claimed that Robert, the brother he hated, had no true-born children, with no proof, and demanded to be crowned for that. The man who wanted to burn Robert's son wants to remove Robert's other son from the throne,